Hi guys. Okay, so I'm going to share some snippets here and there because Court TV, I think I had spoken about it in the last video, my last video. They kind of put out a timeline, like how long was George in the suitcase, and so he has a couple of people. Lauren Silver is one of the people who went to the last hearing. She's going to speak, and he has somebody else to speak about poor George and how long did he suffer and how long would he have survived in there, and some other interesting things that I'm going to bring up to you. So let's just go ahead and get with it.
Was George in the suitcase? When did he get in? When was it finally unzipped? Joining me, Court TV digital content producer who's been covering this story inside and out, Lauren Silver is with us, and forensic pathologist Dr. Priya Banerjee. Thank you both for being here. Lauren, I'll begin with you, and I want to put this up on the screen. We have somewhat of a timeline here of what's going on, but I want you to kind of fill in the blanks. It seems that he's in the suitcase by 11:12 or so. Falls
Exactly.
So 11. What are they doing that night at 11:12 that gets him into the suitcase, and how precise is that time?
So we know that their evening starts at sometime around 4 p.m. when the two of them are at home. They're painting pictures, doing puzzles, and it starts with sharing a bottle of wine. At some point, they decided to play hide and seek. Sarah hid upstairs. She says George never came to look for her, so she went downstairs and found him. And at that point, they thought it'd be funny to zip him into the suitcase. Now, where we're getting that 11:12 time is that's the first video recording that you just saw that was on Sarah's phone. So at that point, he's already in the suitcase and saying that he's having trouble breathing.
And
Horrible.
then eventually, somehow, some way, she leaves downstairs, goes upstairs, and goes to sleep. We get to the next morning. What's the time frame here? Is she finding him early in the morning, mid-morning, late morning?
She says she went up, went to sleep. She assumed that he would find his own way out of the suitcase. So she says she was woken up at about 11 a.m. by her phone ringing over and over again. She assumed it was her ex-husband, looked around and realized, I don't see George. So she went downstairs looking for him, and it's at that point that she realized he was in the suitcase. He was unresponsive. She couldn't wake him up. And her immediate response was to call her ex-husband.
So I'm doing the math as you're describing all this. Like, it seems at a minimum, it's 11 hours and 48 minutes. All right, Dr. Priya Banerjee, how long could someone survive in a suitcase like that? And is there any way to tell with any precision? Is it a ballpark? And what would it be like for that amount of time for George Torres?
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Can you hear me, Dr. Banerjee? We're having some trouble, obviously, with Dr. Banerjee hearing me. So, Lauren, as we get back to the suitcase and the time frame, let's get back to that morning. What's her story about what she does when she realizes that he's in the suitcase? I've got to think that she unzips it, right?
So ostensibly she unzips it, realizes she cannot wake him up, and this is at 11 o'clock in the morning. Her first response is to call her ex-husband. So she called her ex-husband. Her ex-husband came over. She insisted he come over. He also saw that George was unresponsive and said they needed to call 911. And then he went outside and waited until the police arrived.
That is
So I don't know how long it took him to get there.
She should have done that before
1 o'clock.
Brian got there.
And so police aren't there till 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And at a minimum, I mean, the latest that he could have gotten in there was 11:12 at night. This to me, this is a big piece of the story, a big piece of the case, because you're talking about, okay, you're playing hide and seek, you know, things go awry, whatever. This is overnight. This is through the morning into the afternoon that George Torres is inside that suitcase. You know, the other question a lot of people have had is about, oh, how does he even get in there? But my understanding, George Torres was, he wasn't a huge man. I mean, he was relatively small. He was thin, not super tall. So in terms of his size, if you had to describe him, Lauren, or have they given a weight and a height in some of the documents? Do we know that?
I haven't seen it. I'm not great with those numbers, and I can't say that I've ever tried to put humans into a suitcase, so I don't know how well or how badly you would fit. But what Sarah does tell the police is that he got in willingly, they were laughing about it, and that Sarah zipped him up, but 2 of his fingers were sticking out of the suitcase, and they're having trouble getting them in, and she noted that the handle on the zipper was broken, and they were able to zip it closed with a paper clip. So it was a broken suitcase. The zipper was broken, but she still maintained he would find his own way out.
All right, Dr. Priya Banerjee, back with us. The question I have for you, how long could he survive in that suitcase with it zipped shut? We've got this seemingly 12, potentially 12 plus hours that he's in there, but how long would it take for him to no longer be able to survive?
Well, like Lauren said, it's not an experiment we run in any kind of way, with real people. He does look thin, and obviously he was able to fold up. I don't expect that to be a roomy suitcase. And why I say that is your breathing is dependent on your chest and belly, right, rising and falling, so being able to take deep breaths. And if you're scrunched forward or folded into a suitcase, at that point, your neck, everything is scrunched, right? So it doesn't even have the room to expand. And then someone's going to get real tired, right? Between the stress of being in there, using up energy, and then this doesn't seem like a thin cloth. It looks like a more rugged, even though the zipper's broken. So it's not going to be so breathable that oxygen's going to get in. So I'm treating it as sort of a closed space. And as soon as that air quality, the oxygen runs out, that's it. It's going to be minutes. We do know the physiology of someone being strangled. It's going to be longer than that because it's going to take longer for the air to, oxygen to run out. But it's not 11 hours. It's going to be soon. And it's traumatic to think that he's asking for help and he's laughing.
Horrific.
And is he realizing what's happening? Like, at what point?
Absolutely.
Does he realize that, oh my goodness, this could be the end?
Well, I think it's sort of a slippery slope, right? He's going to become more confused as the oxygen goes down, right? He's going to become weaker. So it's both expending energy and using up the oxygen. So that means he's going to become tired and his brain's going to become foggy. But she's also overtly laughing at him.
You're right.
So he's not, maybe she even removed herself before he dies. That's even scarier. No one's there at the end. So I just think it's
horrible,
awful to think about.
Okay, we've got more to uncover, and in this case, coming up next, how did the suitcase flip over?
Sarah. You. Sarah. Stupid. Sarah. That's my name. Don't wear it up. Sarah.
Started in there. Okay. We've been doing art, trying to take the stuff off the wall to make new art put up there, like having a good time with one another. But we're drinking. We had a bottle of wine last night. Okay. So then it's like we decided to play hide and seek, right? Okay. So he gets in the suitcase. The problem is I fell asleep. I fell asleep.
When did you do CPR?
This morning when I found it.
Before you called?
Yes.
1 o'clock right now.
I I was awake, but I actually got out of the bed at like 12:30ish, whatever. So I came downstairs, and I was like, oh, he's in the suitcase still. And that's when I found him, and I took him out, and I tried doing CPR, and then I called him, and then I called you guys. And I fell asleep, so I don't know if they suffocated her, or like had an aneurysm or a heart attack.
Oh, no, I don't think so, Sarah.
And none that I know of.
You smothered.
No. All we had was a bottle of wine.
Mm-hmm. Literally.
12 hours locked inside of a suitcase, it's not going to be an aneurysm.
Yes, thank you, Benny.
So I wanted to, I said there's more than one video. There's two videos. The second one's a little bit shorter, but I want to show you the second video as we watch it and listen to it. Take a close look, because it's interesting to see the positioning of the suitcase.
Sarah.
See, I bet you those are his shoes. We call them here in Florida, we call them flip-flops. I bet you those are his, and he took them off when he got into the suitcase. This still, as many times as I watch it, it still makes me so ill. And his poor family having to wait so long. Ugh.
So the positioning of the suitcase, where it is on the floor, and you heard George was still alive there saying Sarah, again, pleading for his life. Let's take a look at the first video next to the second video. And the one thing that's clear to me is that it's not in the same position. It's moved. It's on its back on one, and then it's on the other side in the other picture. So it's not stationary. It's not like he's in the suitcase, he's locked in, and the suitcase stays there. Something else is at play here. Brings me to my next question, which is, how did the suitcase flip over? What's going on there? Is it him? Is she torturing him? What exactly is going on here that changes the position of that suitcase? With me, Court TV digital content producer Lauren Silver and forensic pathologist Dr. Priya Banerjee. Lauren, is there any evidence or statements relative to the positioning of the suitcase, because it's obviously on different sides, flipped over from video 1 to video 2?
Well, I combed through the documents, and she is very clear that she had been upstairs, the suitcase was downstairs, and they got in the suitcase downstairs. So she says the suitcase was always downstairs. There were some items in there they wanted to unpack. They took them out. He got in, and then she zipped it up. The only mention of the movement, which is clear in the videos, is by the detectives themselves in the police report, noting on the video that in the first, the suitcase is facing downward, and you can see George is pressing from inside to get out, whereas the second one, it's facing upwards and is moved over to the left side of the living room. It doesn't offer any speculation as to how that happened, and as far as I know, Sarah Boone's never given any explanation.
I went back to the interrogation, and she does talk about flipping it. But again, did she flip it? I get that. Let me just get that part for you. I'm going to get that little clip, put it in, and then we'll listen to the rest of this.
That's you. Your voice.
Excuse me? Sarah. That's my name. Don't wear it on. I can't fucking believe it. Sarah. Yeah, that's when you do it. Shook me. Sarah.
I don't want to watch it, please. Okay.
Last time we talked to you, you had said that you put him in the suitcase, you had two fingers hanging out.
I flipped him over.
Hear that?
I flipped him over, and that's where it was.
There's two different videos and a still picture where, yeah, it shows you flipping him in different positions and him saying that he can't breathe and you saying fuck
So
you.
this is upside down. So in order for him to have gotten into it,
It was flipped up.
right, it was flipped up normal.
Yes.
Like as if you're packing something. So this is upside down.
Guys, this is killing me right now.
So this image is upside
Where?
down, and then this small video that occurred 11 minutes later, it's flipped over the other way, closer to your dining room table.
Okay.
Now he's obviously still in there. So he didn't, how did it go from the back to the front?
I flipped it.
Okay.
Hear that? From her mouth, those words, I flipped it. But the question is, did she push it down the stairs? Was the noise that the neighbor, when the neighbor was talking about it, sounded like something was being thrown down the stairs. Did she push the suitcase down the stairs? Because they're saying there that but she said right there that she flipped it. Now whether, there could be a few theories, she pushed it down the stairs or she flipped it. And I keep thinking about something about that baseball bat that was around. But right there, she says she flipped it. And, to explain the different positions. So interesting that she remembers that, but she doesn't remember everything else because she was, obviously she was very intoxicated, but see, she sat there and said she flipped it. I just wanted to point that out in case no one else did.
My plan was not to go upstairs and go to sleep,
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's what you did.
Yeah.
but not intentional.
Ooh.
No, you told me you went upstairs because
Look,
you were
stop
getting
here.
ready for bed.
Stops here.
Okay, but
Where's here?
show me where you can see any fingers coming out, because there's the end.
And his head's right here.
Mm-hmm.
So going like this, rather than going all the way up, it's like this.
But why is he saying I can't breathe, and why is he pushing on it as if he can't get out?
And it doesn't show a hole.
There's no hole. There's no fingers. I don't see his fingers. There's no hole.
I don't know what you want me to tell you. I don't know, what you want me to tell you.
I'm just telling you what we see and what we've heard from the other video.
I understand.
He's begging for you to let him out. You're laughing in the beginning, and then in the end it sounds kind of like a...
No, it's not malicious.
Well, saying fuck you,
It's not malicious.
then what is that?
What does fuck you mean to you?
Well,
Like if I were to tell
like he does. I get told everything but a white woman, so.
Oh, here we go. Make it about you. Mm-hmm.
My intention was not to leave him in there.
Mm.
Please understand that.
Okay, I'm just going to stop there because I think it's very interesting. And why do you think her attorney, Mr. Owens, doesn't want any of this in there? Because it's really going to mess up her self-defense theory. Now, maybe battered spouse, I don't know about all that, but yeah, that's look at her. It wasn't my intent. And now I'm thinking, see, the judge remember the judge said he was going to watch the 2-hour thing of this, the 2-hour interrogation. Can you imagine him sitting there? I mean, would he be sitting there in his chambers eating popcorn or dinner? Perhaps he's having Chinese and eating it with chopsticks, or maybe he's a prime rib kind of fellow. But watching and going, and of course he has to not show any emotion or anything. That's where I would have a hard time. But I don't think he's gonna. I think he's gonna allow them to play it. But I just wanted to point that part out there. Because she does say something about flipping it, whether she really did or not. But it's interesting that she would remember that she did that, don't y'all think? Anyhow, there's that.
Let me ask you, Dr. Priya Banerjee, I guess two scenarios. I want to talk about one scenario, though. If she is moving this suitcase around and rolling it around, would you expect to find any particular types of injuries during the autopsy that could perhaps be consistent with someone being locked in a suitcase and sort of tossed around in that suitcase?
Yeah, I don't know the exact model of the suitcase, but obviously that would be available to my colleagues. Oftentimes, I think you would look for marks, like whether it be contusions, so bruising from any sort of ribbing, handle, the wheels jutting in, any kind of hardware or outhousings. Usually, I mean, it's pretty smooth, but you don't know how he's like, scrunched up in there. The one thing I want to point out, though, is and this is pure speculation, if it was twisted while he was alive, you can see that the zipper is now on the bottom, right? If we're moving from position one being on the right-hand side of my screen to the side, where it's flipped over on the rug now, the sort of lid, if you will, the zippered portion is now on the floor. That's impossible to extricate yourself from. Even if he's trying to undo the zipper, which
he can't get out if it's flipped over.
How is he going to lift the lid off? Even if he's trying to kick, I don't think it's so small. A grown man, even if he's petite, is going to have a very difficult time getting out.
Now, there's a video posted on Deep Dive True Crime on YouTube, which appears to feature audio from a police interview with Sarah Boone's neighbor. Now, in it, he describes hearing a loud crash. Let's take a listen.
Do you recall hearing anything coming from apartment 3 while you were, after you had gotten home?
Around 10:30 or 11 o'clock, there was a very loud crashing sound where I believe, I'm not sure, I haven't been in their apartment like my roommate, but I believe it's the location of the staircase.
Okay, so
a little bit above.
A very loud, you said crashing sound?
Yeah, like it sounded like something had been like walking down the stairs. Because it started up high and then it ended low.
Okay, Dr. Priya Banerjee, if this suitcase with a man inside, shut, is rolled down a staircase, what type of injuries would you expect?
Oh.
And would you expect someone to still be conscious and be able to talk the way George was when he was begging for his life?
Sure, just to clarify, are you asking whether he's already inside the suitcase as he goes down the stairs?
Oh, yeah, inside the suitcase being rolled down the stairs.
Yeah, well, that's a whole nother can of worms. You can imagine as that tumbling motion is in there, he could bang around, and at least, I know it's a soft-sided suitcase, but there has to be some reinforcement frame in there. Those can add, bumps and bruises to him. So you should see some unexplained injuries in that source. I don't think there's any significant head trauma. From what I read about his cause of death, it was all related to the suffocation.
Dr. Priya Banerjee, Lauren Silver, thank you both so much. Sometimes going into a trial, we know some of the facts and we know a little bit about the defendant and what they may or may not have said. This case is different. Sarah Boone, from the 911 call to the interview/interrogation to the body cam video from the responding officers, we get to hear her tell her story. So I want to play for you right now body cam video from the next day when you have the responding officer speaking with Sarah Boone and trying to get an understanding of what's going on here. Let's take a look.
We have a puzzle that we started in there.
Okay.
We've been doing art, trying to take the stuff off the wall to make new art put up there, like having a good time with one another. But we're drinking, we had a bottle of wine last night.
Okay.
So then it's like, we decided to play hide and seek, right?
Okay.
So he gets in the suitcase. Okay.
Who is this guy?
That's my ex-husband, my former husband.
Did he live here with you guys?
No. I called him over here.
Okay.
I didn't know what to do.
Okay.
I didn't know what to do.
Okay.
So then he came over here.
Here, let's talk in private, okay?
I called you guys. I tried giving you
brother.
the problem is I fell asleep.
When did you do CPR?
This morning when I found it.
Before you called?
Yes.
It's 1 o'clock right now.
I tried. I was awake, but I actually got out of the bed at like 12:30ish, whatever. So I came downstairs, and I was like, oh, he's in the suitcase still. And that's when I found him, and I took him out, and I tried doing CPR, and then I called him, and then I called you guys.
Did he get here before the fire department got here?
Who?
Your husband or your ex-husband?
Yes.
Okay. Where does he live at?
Right down the street.
Okay. So you were playing and you picked him up and...
I did, but then I fell asleep.
Okay. You're okay. I wasn't here. I'm just trying to figure out what happened.
I fell asleep, so I don't know if they suffocated or like had an aneurysm or a heart attack or
what kind of medical conditions does he have?
None that I know of.
Nothing that you know of.
None
You didn't
that I
take
know
any
of.
medicine?
No. All we had was a bottle of wine. Literally, just a bottle of wine.
Okay.
Doing puzzle artwork. Then we decided to play hide and seek. That's all that happened.
So that's her story to the responding officer. But as I told you, it's not the only person she's talking to, and that her story or her statements are recorded. So that brings me to my next question, and it's an important one for the trial. Is Sarah Boone's story consistent? How many times have we seen cases where stories change and you hear those arguments in the courtroom that the story has evolved, the story has changed? Well, is her story consistent here with what happened? Joining me, Sarah Boone's new attorney, James Owens, is with us. And James, I understand you're preparing for trial, so I know there may be some things you can't talk about. I just want to let the viewers know that that's part of the deal when we bring on the lawyer. And thank you so much for being here. Also with us, Sarah's former defense attorney, Frank Bankowitz. So thank you both for being...
Yes, Frank Bankowitz was the one prior to Mr. Hobbs and Patricia Cashman. And Mr. Bankowitz was with her a little over a year. And so he's, of course, now interviewing Mr. Bankowitz and, of course, Mr. Owens. And then there's another interview, separate interview, not that long, with Mr. Bankowitz. Poor fella. He's the one that she called him a dud? Oh, I forget. And there was another name. A buffoon and a dud in her letters. Those letters, oh my goodness, she might have wished she hadn't written so many dang letters. But let's listen to see what these fellows have to say.
Here, I do appreciate it. So I wanted to point out a couple of scenarios here and kind of get your take on it. And I'll begin with Sarah Boone talking about when she woke up. In one statement, Sarah woke up to her cell phone ringing multiple times around 1100 hours. This is in a police statement. She went downstairs, did not see George anywhere in the apartment. She then realizes that he was possibly still inside the suitcase. Sarah unzipped the suitcase and found George unresponsive and not breathing. However, on the body cam video, I want to play that so we can see if it's consistent with that version.
When did you do CPR?
This morning, when I found it.
Before you called?
Yes!
1 o'clock right now.
I tried. I was awake, but I actually got out of the bed at like 12:30ish. Whatever.
Okay, so James, is there a problem here in when she's getting up, or is this story consistent, at least this part, of when she gets up the following morning?
Thanks for having me, Vinny. I don't think she had a watch on every time they're asking her questions about the times. I'm guessing, trying to give them an answer. So I don't think she should be looked down upon or considered that she's being evasive. I just think she didn't know the time frame.
Frank, from your perspective, is there a problem with her story, or is it something that is consistent enough for a jury to say, hey, every time she's telling the story, she's telling the same story about what happened that morning?
Well, I don't know that you can point to inconsistencies. I think it's, she's nervous, she's upset, she's basically kind of in a panic mode from what I see in the video and what I've seen in the past. And I don't know that you can point to those as being inconsistencies.
I want to show go to another issue here, which is the state of mind that night and what was happening. First, Sarah mentioned that she and George had been consuming alcohol during the night, and she went upstairs and passed out in her bed. But here she is in her interview talking about the same issue of drinking that night.
You told me on but you told me on recording, like, that you were not drunk, he was not drunk, you guys were having a good time.
I can't get drunk. Number one, I do not want to get drunk. I don't like being non-competitive, having my wits about myself. I don't like feeling out of control. So,
I'm just saying, you're making it sound like he's a raging alcoholic today, and yesterday I was kind of asking you those questions, and you're like a little defensive, like, no, we're not alcoholics.
I'm not.
We are not, you know. But you guys were both sober on Sunday, to your knowledge, because when I said you went and passed out, you were like, no, I didn't pass out, I just fell asleep. So now it's kind of like, what is it? Were you guys drinking and it got out of hand and it got physical?
No.
Or is it...
Sunday was one of the better days that we have had in quite some time.
So where were you guys at on drunkenness, not drunkenness on Sunday? You told us you weren't drunk.
No, I was not drunk.
Right.
I was not drunk.
Okay, James, from the beginning of my coverage of the story, that's always been a big issue because you listen to the voice, it sounds like she's under the influence. Is this a problem, the fact that she seems to be denying that they were drinking, denying that she was drunk, or was she actually sober that night?
No, I think they were drinking, and I think that earlier in the day, she to the Publix, which is a short distance away from their apartment. And then later on the day, he went a second time to Publix and got another bottle. So both of them and found in the garbage can, and the receipts were found some in the apartment. So they were the only in the apartment that night. So they both consumed the. So they did drink quite a bit.
Frank, Bankowitz, let me ask you about that issue of the drinking. Is that a huge problem for Sarah Boone that they were drinking, or how does this play in front of a jury, and what does it mean?
Well, I would agree with Mr. Owens. They were drinking a lot. They consumed 2 full bottles of wine. They finished one and went out and bought a second and finished it. Whether...
Now, see, that's interesting. So there was 2 trips made to the store. From what I was understanding, because I thought I remember her saying, and I'm not going to pull that up, in the interrogation that he went and got it. So in my mind, I was thinking that there had been only 1 trip, but it sounds like there was 1 trip made for a bottle and then the second trip made to get the bottle of wine. That's all I had to say on that.
In her mind, at that point in time, she can establish whether she was drunk or not. I think that's going to be a question for the jury. And they're going to have to look at all these tapes and, and look at the actual facts as to what she did, where she had gone, and the fact that she, quote, fell asleep, to me, is consistent with being passed out. But that's to me. Fortunately, I don't have to deal with that. Mr. Owens does.
And Mr. Owens,
I bet he's so glad,
number
too.
9 will be representing Sarah Boone at the trial. This is a big one now. I think this is probably the biggest one if there is an inconsistency. From the beginning, it seems that Sarah was talking about playing a game of hide and seek, that George willingly got into the suitcase, Sarah zipped the suitcase up, and they were both laughing as she zipped him into the suitcase. But now I want to play the last time, James, you were in court talking about what Sarah's defense is going to be in this case.
Judge, the state doesn't know what happened the 2 minutes prior, or the minutes leading up to, the time leading up to the 2-minute video. The state doesn't know what happened after the 2-minute video. Only Sarah Boone can testify to that. That's for her to testify to.
Florida, the appellant has not cited, nor is our research located, any Florida case holding that evidence of battered spouse syndrome is admissible where the defendant claims accident rather than self-defense.
Who claims accident?
Are you claiming self-defense?
Yes.
Well, that's the first time that I've heard that.
Judge, I just mentioned it a while ago.
The word self-defense never came out of your mouth.
Okay, I have to go back on this. I have to stop this for a minute because the last, and I think one of y'all mentioned it in your comments on the prior video, Mr. Owens did bring up self-defense, and I wanted to correct myself on that because he did say self-defense, and the judge hadn't heard.
Okay, James, let me ask you, if they're laughing, if she says they're laughing when she zipped them in, how does that equal self-defense? Is that inconsistent?
Yeah,
well, like I said in court,
yeah, Mr. Owens.
The video is only 2 minutes long that Sarah recorded of George in the suitcase. So no one but Sarah knows what happened prior to recorded, and no one but Sarah knows what happened turned off the video. So her to testify to and explain what happened.
All right, James Owens and Frank Bankowitz stay.
Okay, so here's the separate interview with Mr. Bankowitz, and Julie Grant here from Court TV is going to ask him about Sarah.
Some inside knowledge for you about what it's like to be one of Sarah Boone's attorneys. You know Sarah Boone, the defendant in the Suitcase murder trial. Well, she's on her 9th lawyer right now, and so far, so good. But 3 court-appointed attorneys who used to represent her went before a judge to get paid, telling the court what it was like to represent Sarah Boone.
Like previous counsel, I spent an inordinate amount of time with Miss Boone. I spent over 20 hours during my period of time that I was representing her. I believe that for multiple reasons the court can find that this case was extraordinary and unusual, and that it would be confiscatory to not pay me the flat fee.
Get this, one attorney even said he had to put up with Boone's gaslighting. How about that? Now, the judge granted payment of $15,000 for each of those attorneys who had not been paid, of course, plus some other fees. So hopefully everyone is receiving the compensation that is owed to them. And I've long said that all of those attorneys deserve a medal for tolerating her. That's just my opinion. And I want to bring in one of those attorneys who should get a medal right now. I want to welcome in attorney Frank Bankowitz. He was number 6 in the order that we've been counting, and we're so pleased to have him here alongside Court TV digital producer Lauren Silver, who's been digging in, researching this case for us, following all of the progression through the years. And we're so happy to dig in with you both this morning. So, Frank, let me start with you. Welcome. Thank you for doing this. And talk to us a little bit, please, about what it was like to represent Sarah Boone.
Well, it was an unusual situation. Case had a lot of publicity, and Miss Boone was very involved with her own defense, and she wanted her attorneys to be also that involved, regardless of what other cases they had. So it was an experience.
Sure. And I know right now her current legal team is saying they're going to present battered spouse syndrome as their defense. And I understand that that was also something that you had intended to present, but there was a problem that Sarah had with it. What was that, Frank?
She did not like the expert witness that we had chosen to assist in that defense.
Of course she didn't.
Could not get along with that person. At times refused to communicate, meet with, or do any assistance with the expert that we had retained.
So an issue with an expert. Okay.
Wow.
And we know that her team is also taking issue with something else, with the interrogation that was done. And it was videotaped. We watched it in depth. And apparently they're saying that she was not properly given her warnings pursuant to Miranda versus Arizona. Frank, curious if you agree with that.
He was not giving her warnings necessarily on the video itself, but from my investigation, they had been given prior to the actual starting of the camera. Miss Boone's biggest complaint was the publication of that video by the Sheriff's Department on such things as YouTube, and which has created a very impossible task in picking a jury that would be impartial in a case.
Understood, Frank. And I have a clip from the interrogation. Let's take a look at it together now.
I thought he was okay. Like, I didn't. He's
telling you he's not. He's telling you, Sarah, I can't breathe. He's saying your name, and you're like, that's my name, don't wear it out.
Guys, that's how we are with each other. Like, nobody understands our relationship. The whole suitcase thing never happened before.
Okay, I want to bring in Lauren Silver to accompany you here on Frank for some questions. Now, Lauren, you're digging in. This motion her attorneys have filed. Tell us a little bit about this latest motion and what essentially they're trying to do here, please.
All right, so the motion that they filed to suppress, this is a motion to suppress the full interrogation done by Orange County Sheriff's deputies. This was an extensive interrogation done on February 25th, the day after the death. And they are claiming that the Miranda card, which the deputies physically read off of, was done twice incorrectly. And specifically what they're alleging is that the very last sentence was let off. So that very last sentence is, having these rights in mind, do you wish to talk to us now? The rest of them, you have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. All those things we're used to from watching here on Court TV and also shows like Law and Order. Those were all read properly. It's on video. The question is that last sentence and whether that last sentence not being read is enough to suppress. Her attorney, James Owens, is also claiming that she was coerced in making the statements because when she walked in, deputies told her things like, you have to talk to us. We found some things on the autopsy we need to talk to you about, and creating what he is calling a false sense of urgency that he's determining as coercion.
Oh, Lauren, this is interesting, and I love that you brought with us, your discussion points today, that card, so that we could see that very last line is what defense counsel's taking issue with. So, Frank, back to you on that. Was it legally necessary for these officers to read that line to her?
Yes, it was. They are required to read the entire card, everything that is on the card, and they normally get a piece of paper that is a checklist of what they have instructed or advised against, and they usually have the individual sign that piece of paper. I did not, in my recollection, see that signed waiver card.
Oh, this is interesting. Okay, thank you for that. So this is something big, and Lauren, thank you as well. This is something huge we're going to watch to see if all that footage that we watched on this program is going to be tossed. We'll see. Frank, with respect to Sarah and the interactions, I understand you had her for about 14 months representing her. Did you two get along? Were you able to get along well with her?
That's a tough question.
Buffoon.
We got along as long as I was there, and we had open access. Which at times we did not, but it was a matter of seeing her physically, that she wanted her attorneys, not just me, but all of her attorneys, to be able to be at her disposal. And that's difficult when you have other clients to represent.
Right, most certainly. Yeah, tell us about your job, your career, where you've worked, where you're currently working.
Well, when I first started practicing law, I was an assistant state attorney in the Ninth Judicial Circuit, which is prosecuting Ms. Boone at this time. I was there for about 5 years. I left there to go with a civil law firm in the personal injury area. And I left there about maybe 3 years later and opened my own office. And ever since then, I've been a solo practitioner basically for the last 50 years. I've been a member of the Florida Bar for 50 years.
Well, that's awesome. That's incredibly impressive, Frank. We knew that you knew your stuff, would see you in action. And, this isn't a problem with any of the attorneys that have represented her. Everyone has been so seasoned, so smart. It seems that the common denominator with all the issues is Sarah Boone. And can you tell us quickly why you withdrew?
Well, it was the cumulative effect, so to speak, of the letters that she would send to the judge about he's not doing this and he's not doing that. And all these letters are public record. They're all in court file. Eventually, it came down to she even wrote a letter to the judge complaining about the judge not doing his job.
That's true.
So, again, these are all in the court file.
We remember that. Yes, she is a real piece of work. Frank Bankowitz, wonderful having you on the program. We would like to have you back sometime to
He
do
finally
some analysis
smiled.
on another case. We won't talk about Sarah Boone. We'll talk about something else. We'd enjoy your time and your expertise. Thank you so much. And big thanks to Court TV digital producer Lauren Silver.
Okay, finally, I wanted to share with you, there have been some more filings, but at the time I'm doing this, it is 11:41 p.m. September 30th, soon to be October 1st, probably by the time I get this up. So I'll pull some of those up tomorrow. I'll try to get those up because their next hearing is the 2nd. So, but I just wanted to share with you that it says, as I think I already shared, on the 27th, it says, per the court, the defense... So sorry. I just realized I don't have my glasses on. That's another reason why I'm not going to read any of this right now. Okay. So it says, the defense must file motion to suppress by end of today. That's the 27th, 11:59 p.m. So this is the latest one. He just filed it. Well, I'll say today, but by the time you get this, I put this up, it'll be October 1st. So Mr. Owens filed his motion to suppress at 4:39 p.m. on September 30th. So he did not meet his deadline. So my question is, will Judge Kranick accept it or not? We will find this out at the October 2nd hearing. And basically, it looks like it's a lot of the same stuff. And again, I don't think they're citing any cases, case laws, which is, I think, supposed to be, that's supposed to be a big part of it. If you have objections or you want to suppress or whatever, which of course the state, and I don't know if they did, I think we already went over the states. They did a lot of citings, cases. Sorry, it is late, but I just wanted to share that with you because I thought that was important to note. We'll get to find out too. They're gonna, on the second one, they'll talk about this, of course, the motion to suppress and all that. They'll have their arguments, and then of course they'll go on further. We already know that Sarah is allegedly going to get measured for her clothing, and then we'll get to hear about the hair and the makeup. That still blows me away. Now, I don't think there's a big problem with it, but I mean, when you say a professional hairstylist, it's just like, I can't remember if I wrote it in the description of the video I just dropped, my most recent one, but it's like, she's all giddy. Like I said, I don't know who she has goo-goo eyes for, but she's acting so happy and like she's getting ready for the prom instead of her own trial. you know, and I think that's what just gets me, that's what pisses me off so much, is that she's just, you know, going on and not, that's what gets me about these, whom I think, I would say, I would think it'd be safe to say she's a narcissist. But if I didn't say it, I didn't say it in the beginning. I'm not a lawyer, paralegal, psychologist, psychiatrist, just a person with opinions and who likes true crime and is really big on justice. When you see somebody has, especially when you know, like this case, Daryl Brooks, and I'm sure we can name many others, where it is obvious what they've done, and I still think it should be a crime that George's family has to wait almost 5 years to get justice while she's, you know, sashaying around, worrying about hair and makeup and just being difficult. And Mr. Owens, you know, I mean, I guess I appreciate that he's stepping up for everyone does deserve a defense, but he's just annoying too. And I know that he's, you know, he doesn't have much time to work with, but like I said, that chaotic hearing on the 27th, and him just stuffing more motions in, and that means the state has to reply, and, you know, the madness just must stop, and we must just get on with this trial and get justice for George. But what did you all think about Mr. Bankowitz? I wondered if he would be in trouble about talking about some of the things. I mean, would that be like a conflict of interest? I don't know. I guess the only thing I want to say, which is totally unrelated to this case, but, you know, living in Florida, we were very lucky not to be affected by this horrible Helene. But, you know, just think about everybody who has been affected by it. I mean, we're just an hour from Tampa, Clearwater, and those storm surges those were nuts, and people have lost their homes, their vehicles, their lives. It's just, you know, and seeing all this flooding, like in the mountains, I mean, so many people have been affected, and I hope all of you all are safe wherever you all are. If, you know, I really do hope that. That just breaks my heart for everyone, because, and then it makes me feel bad, because I'm like, oh wow, we missed it, you know, but then that means that somebody else had to be. It's just sad. It's just very sad. So I would just say keep those people in mind, and I hope and pray that all of you all are safe and we're not affected by the storm if you were in its path. And that's going to be it by now, because like I said, my brain is fried, so done for now. But just want to tell y'all, as always, I love you. I appreciate each and every one of you. Please like and subscribe. It doesn't cost a thing. I mean, if you feel like that's what you want to do. No pressure. And just be kind to someone. Kindness doesn't cost anything either. Be kind to you, and I'll see you the next time.